Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Chef Vic Cuisine. Today we are making candied yams. Now this celebrates the great flavor of sweet potatoes, mixing it in with a caramelized coating of delicious brown sugar, butter, and warm spices. This is a must-have on your Thanksgiving Day table. So let's get started. All right, diving right into this recipe, we're gonna preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 degrees Celsius. To start our dish, we're gonna need about 2 pounds worth of sweet potatoes. Although this dish is called candied yams, it was actually false advertising way back in the day, and you actually use sweet potatoes for this dish. Depending on the size of the sweet potatoes you find, you're gonna need about 2 to maybe 3 different potatoes for this recipe. First off, you want to peel them until all the outer skin is removed. And then you want to use a large knife to cut the potatoes into 1 to 2 inch sized cubes. Your goal here is to have them as evenly cut as possible so that they all cook evenly. And once you have them all diced up as such, you want to place these diced sweet potatoes into a steamer basket. Once they're all added in, you want to add in a thin sprinkling of salt over the diced sweet potatoes. You want to make sure the water in the base of the pot is not touching the sweet potatoes. And once that water is boiling, we want to cover the pot and steam these sweet potatoes for about 8 to 10 minutes. And once they've steamed, you want to carefully transfer them into an oven-safe baking dish, all in an even layer. And we're going to set this aside for now. So next up, we're going to make the caramel for this dish. So in a large saucepan, we're going to melt 4 tablespoons worth of salted butter over medium heat or 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 degrees Celsius. Following that, we're going to add in 1 cup's worth of granulated white sugar, a 1/4 cup of buttermilk, 2 teaspoons worth of ground cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, as well as a 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. Mixing those together until they're well combined. You're going to want to continue to heat this mix until it comes to a strong simmer, whisking this constantly. And now normally you want to remove the pan from the heat and stir in a 1/4 teaspoon's worth of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of maple syrup, 1/2 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, as well as a 1/4 teaspoon of rum extract. I forgot to do it into the mix itself. I'd already poured this over the rest of my sweet potatoes, so I added it on top of that and then I gave the mix a good stir. I find this easiest to do with the rubber spatula. Your goal is not to mash any of that sweet potato. So now we want to cover our baking dish with aluminum foil, and we're going to transfer this to the oven and bake for, in total, 30 to 35 minutes, or until the sweet potatoes are fork tender. But at the 15-minute mark, we want to remove the potatoes from the oven, and we're going to toss them about halfway through this baking process. And for final touches of flavor, we're going to sprinkle on a thin layer of ground cloves, as well as some additional nutmeg. And another star of this dish that doesn't feel complete without, you're going to need about 10 ounces worth of large marshmallows. We're going to add those all on as a topping. So we're going to transfer this back into the oven without the aluminum foil on top. And for the next 15 minutes, bake this until the top of the candied yams is a dark golden brown. At this stage, you can remove it from the oven, and this is ready to be served hot and enjoyed. And just like that, you've made candied yams right at home. As you can see, this is really easy to make, and it's one of those side dishes at Thanksgiving that you don't have to keep your eye on the entire time while you're cooking. For a tip or variation on this recipe, you can always try incorporating a splash of orange juice or a sprinkle of toasted pecans on top of the candied yams as well. But when you do try this at home, be sure to tag me at Chef Vic Cuisine or hashtag Chef Vic Cuisine so I can see your great takes on this dish. As always, this recipe and many more can be found in my cookbook, Chef Vic Cuisine Volume 5, Mastering Your Inner Chef. And that's available on Amazon, and I'll be sure to leave a link to that in my description box. And feel free to click the pop-up on your screen for more information on that as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this recipe, and if you did, make sure you smash that like button for me. It's one of the best ways to show support for this channel. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button too. And feel free to share this recipe with all your family and friends. And stay tuned for next week where I show you a great breakfast or dessert option, my zucchini muffins. These are so good, light and airy, and of course, really easy to make. Well, thank you all again so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed this recipe. You can always check out more on my page now. YouTube thinks you'll like these videos, so let's see if they're right. And I'll catch you next time on another episode of Chef Vic Cuisine. And until then, peace.